Hi, so today is Wednesday, August 10th. This is a regular meeting of the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. We have we do have a quorum, and the meeting's being called to order at 12:01. The meeting's being held by video conference only on the town's GoToMeeting platform, as indicated on the agenda posted with the town clerk and on the town's website. The first item on the agenda is to approve past minutes, and we do have two sets of minutes that are not quite ready. Christine will finish those up, one from our regular meeting on July 13th and the other one from our special meeting on July 27th, and she'll circulate those. So we'll approve those next time. The next thing that we have on the agenda is recycling. And I just want to report very briefly that with regard to our sustainable materials management grant, we did finally hear back from DEEP on July 18th. And basically, there are two sets of approvals, awards that are being given. We are not in the first grouping of the award. They say that the next round of awards will be announced. Do you guys have like a feedback somewhere? Yeah, I don't know what that's causing that.
I think that Dan needs to mute.
Okay, Dan just left. So, Dan, can you mute for just a minute? Just because we're getting like somehow we're getting like a feedback loop from. Okay. So we'll try that now. Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Okay, that's
camera on.
So Dan?
Yes.
Oh, can you mute just for a minute just to see if it makes a difference? We're getting like a feedback sound, like an echo.
From me?
Yeah, we think it is.
Because I don't hear
It'll
anything
tell you.
here. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, just mute yourself for a minute and we'll see.
Do you hear it now?
Now it's good. No, there it is again. Can you just mute yourself so we can?
That's weird. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't hear anything in the room.
Can you try to turn your mic off, Dan? Let's just see if that works. Just
yeah. Hold on.
Okay. Perfect. So great. Thank you so much, Dan. When we get to the swap shop, we'll unmute you. So I just wanted to very briefly announce that we did hear that we didn't get an award. We weren't awarded in the first round of awards. They will be making a second round of announcements in September. So we'll see. And they say that our application will either as it is or modified will be part of that group to be considered in the second round of announcements. So we'll continue to follow what's going on with that. So Dan, do you want to unmute yourself now and discuss the swap shop?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I can talk about it's been very, very slow. It's been hot and not too many people have come in and out. So nothing is really going on at this point in time. Okay. Carolyn, you just talk about our meeting on the 30th, where some people.
Yeah, okay. So, right. So you can mute yourself again now just so we don't have the echo. But we did get a request. Ed got a request from the chairman of the.
Let me turn my mic off. Hold on.
Thank you. So Ed got a request from the chairman of the Public Works subcommittee, RTM subcommittee, that they would like to meet with us about the swap shop. They haven't said specifically why, But when we get an agenda, it's been set for August 30th. It'll be in the evening, and when we get an agenda from them, I will forward it to all of you, and you can decide if you want to join the meeting or not. But they just kind of generally, I think they want to better understand the operation of the swap shop. So there's that. Christine?
Did you see the email that Ed just sent out?
Just now? No.
Yeah, there was an incident this morning, so make sure you read it. I have a feeling that'll be a huge topic of discussion.
Okay. It just came just a few minutes ago.
It did. It was, let's see, from Ed Gentili at 12. So yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So yes, so there will be that meeting on the 30th. Hi, Kathy. Glad you could
Hi.
join us.
Sorry, I was meeting with the communications.
Great.
I was
Well,
today.
you came just in time because we're just moving on to the sustainable CT application. So, Liam, would you be able to share your screen so we can look at the application?
Sure.
Thanks. And then Kathy, if you want to just take us through the application, we have some updating on 1.1.
Just one quick question, or one quick second. I'm just have to set the system preferences really quick.
Okay.
If we can just ultimately just look at the ones that are planned. There should be like 10 of them.
Sorry, one second. This is taking me a quick minute.
That's okay. How did the meeting go, Kathy?
It was really helpful. I learned quite a bit about how her position evolved and what she's doing. And while, Sustainable CT asks for, sort of like a pre-developed communication plan as if it were have a format, she's kind of building that.
Yeah, great.
So I think we'll see. I think that what she provided me is basically enough to submit that one.
Okay.
Two. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Tony, I don't know if you wanted to stay for the whole meeting or not, but would you like to go first and talk about 7.3?
I think I will stay, but I will also talk about 7.
Okay. Okay, we'd
7.
love to have you stay.
Hey, which one is 3 compared to 7.1?
So 3 is the one with the Energy Star certification.
Okay, the stuff that
We have
we're
some good news on some of it. So.
Okay, so yeah, we I don't remember what we reported last time, but the 4 buildings got verified and stamped by the verifier, sent in. 2 got immediately like final approval, and 2 there was a couple just additional questions, nothing serious, and that was just in the last day or two. So we're working that through. The verifier just has to answer these questions. One of them he's already done, and one of them he's doing today. So that seems to be really finishing off.
Right, the 2 that we did get Energy Star certification immediately for is Town Hall and Middlesex Middle School. So it's Royal and Holmes that also meet the requirements for Energy Star certification, but they just had a couple little questions that the verifier needs to answer.
Yep.
So we hopefully certification there will be following soon. So we have an automatic 10 points there right now. We'll hopefully have the full 20 points.
It is listed as completed on the application. So
Pardon?
we are showing that as completed on the Sustainable CT application. I had taken it off of the planned list. Or I didn't.
Yeah,
it's listed as completed at this point.
Yeah, usually because when you send in the verified application, that's considered evidence that you'll get Energy Star certification. But apparently they mentioned, and I won't bore everyone with the details, but they do an audit, and we just happened to get picked. One of our applications just happened to be one they picked for an audit. So that's kind of why there was a little bit of a holdup. But will hopefully be resolved soon.
Yes.
So I'm going to just, from the point of view of, I'm not going to put it back on the income, or should we put that back to planned, or should we leave it as completed?
What do
On
you
the-
recommend, Liam, given what we just said?
I would say leave it as completed. I highly doubt that because it is being audited, that means that it will be denied. I think that it's just a routine system that they do occasionally during the year. So I would leave it as completed. I'll say that.
And Amy Thompson from UConn is aware of this, and she provided sort of the response that should be given to the EPA. So I mean, she's not worried about it. I mean, she knows that that what was submitted will meet the requirements.
Right.
And I think at this point, with the amount of time left, it's just a matter of, is there someone who will go in and adjust whatever has to be uploaded onto 7.3 without any reminder if it happens? And
Yeah, no, I'm taking care of that one.
okay, super.
Okay, great. So you
Carolyn,
want to
just confirming that you can see my screen. Is that working correctly? I haven't shared my screen on GoToMeeting yet, so just making sure that that's
okay,
correct.
I know GoToMeeting's a little different than Zoom. Yeah, we can see it. Can you just scroll down so we can see the
Sure.
action items?
Sure. So what I had done is just pinned it to make it the biggest screen. I don't know if that automatically did that for all of you, just so it's not super small.
So we're looking at, I can't see which action item that is.
So
This is
7.3.
Oh, this, okay,
7.3.
all right, great. So we're looking at 7.3 now.
Right.
Okay, right. So those were the four verifier certified stamped applications that were submitted to the EPA. We have received, which is generally that enough, that alone is enough to get the points. We did get the Energy Starts certification back on 2, and 2 are still being processed. So, excuse me, I will be sure to follow up on that one and make the
Perfect.
adjustments as needed.
Okay, so shall we go back to the,
one.
what my suggestion, Liam, if you can, is to go to the main page and just hit
Sure.
filter for planned. And we could just go through those planned, which is mostly what was on the spreadsheet that I had been sort of just keeping an eye on.
Thank you for doing that, Kathy. That's really helpful.
So if we start with 1.1, we have 2 items that are fully submitted from Cliff and I.
Perfect.
Cliff, are you working on the Optimize for Equity food scrap?
Kathy, I wrote that up and I sent that off to everybody. Well, not to everybody. I sent it to you and to Carolyn and to Liam and Lily. And I have not uploaded it because I've been kind of expecting that Liam or Lily might provide a little feedback.
I think they did.
I believe Lily and I have talked about it. Maybe Lily hasn't sent the email back yet. I know that we'd written one out. But would be happy to. It looks great from our end. But we can provide a little bit more feedback and talk about it tomorrow and get that email out to you.
Depending upon what that says, I don't know how much more will be involved, but I'm ready to upload it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. I know I had seen some feedback from that, Cliff. And speaking to Lily and Liam on something I was working on, I think they've reiterated to me. So maybe as long as they follow up with you, I think you're going to be good to go.
Yeah, we'll follow up with that tomorrow.
Great. Okay, so that leads to me and Optimize for Equity. Just to update everybody, in the project that I am documenting through 10.2 and then overlaying 1.1 is the mental health task force that has come from, that is an extension beyond what the Thriving Youth Task Force had presented to the community on the student survey. As those results were available, there were several tragedies in the community that got the attention of many, many members of the community to try and figure out what other issues were happening in the community relative to mental health, and thus what types of services are the services we providing enough, or what other services the town could offer. And I have worked with both Lily and Liam. I took some recommendations from them. It's a 6-point narrative. I've written 3 of the 6. I'd hoped to have it to you, Liam, this morning, but I just ran out of bandwidth.
No worries at all.
So I am writing up 10.2 and think I understand how to overlay 1.1. The feedback I got was that it will, if I'm staying within the general guidelines of a health impact assessment, we can use 10.2. If my write-up doesn't meet those standards, then the 1.1 wouldn't work because we wouldn't have a connection. In which case Cliff's becomes even more important. I'm hopeful that what I'm doing is Cliff's third equity becomes extremely important for silver certification. I'm hopeful that mine will work and that we'll be exceeding the requirements for silver.
It doesn't hurt to have 4, though, right? I mean, there's
no, it
not
does not. No, it does not. And even in speaking to our communications person today, the process of assessing the mental health needs of the community in a way that goes beyond what has been done for a number of years and was expanded with youth because of the pandemic it's really new, it's forward thinking. It's really recognizing that many generations in our community have suffered as a result of the pandemic and isolation and anxiety. And so I'm writing it up in how the town is planning to respond and what kinds of things they're seeing in the community that additional actions may have an ability to help improve the health of the community. And they're
So
looking
based
at
on the meeting that we had the other day with Liam and Lily, it sounded like that would suffice for 10.2. And if that works, if it meets those requirements, then we can back it up and apply the equity toolkit to it.
The way I would see the equity toolkit applying is that there are needs in the community that have been documented and demonstrated relative to significant issues with mental health post-pandemic, and the work that the task force is going to be doing is going to expand the kind of work and efforts that the Community Fund and the Thriving Youth Task Force has had to a broader look at the needs of the senior community, families in crisis after an untimely death, and then longer term, other solutions that the town could implement that would improve the mental health of the members of the community at different age groups. So it's very broad. There's the broad task force, there's a sub task force, and it's all being worked out with people from the school system, the town, social services, doing a real deep dive into the different elements of the community and how what's needed in one place may be different than in another, and how y'all pull that off is kind of, the task force is really in its early stages, but they have some direction. So I'll write it up. We'll see where it goes. And we
Great.
don't
Thank you so much, Kathy. That's great.
My head is exploding, but it's interesting just
I think we're all kind of at that point right now.
Yeah. Even within this task force that was newly formed in May, the elements of communication, which I was speaking with the communications manager today, become part of how does the community communicate. There's sort of a shift there. I would say an evolution of how different resources in town can work together. I thought it was fascinating talking to her today. So we'll leave it.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the silver status hinges on Cliff and Kathy. Good luck to both of us.
No
And
pressure there, right?
No pressure there. Beyond that, it's just a matter of completing the things we're working on. So if we just want to, quickly go through, shouldn't have to spend a lot of time in there unless there's something we need to raise. If you want to go back, Liam, I think the next plan is 3.10.
Right.
Facilitate invasive species education and management. That one is still listed as plan not complete. Anyone have any comments on that?
All I can say is I just have to sit down and put it together. I believe that I have everything that I need to do that. We should be able to get the number of points that we planned for here. I think it was 10.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
So that's
The
just
10,
a matter of the write-up at this point.
yes. I'm trying,
Okay.
I'm trying to strategize so that I'm getting the bigger point categories out of the way and then doing this one later.
Absolutely. If it falls by the wayside, it isn't the end of the world, I guess. We're just kind of tracking.
Whereas if 9.3 or not yet falls or 8.5 fall by the wayside, we're losing significant points there. So I've been focusing more on those.
Totally agree.
Okay.
And if you have to wave the flag on that,
I should be able to do it.
Okay. All right. So that's the only one left in 3 that there's any work on. There's some points in 4 that have been written up, but 4.1 and 4.2. That's Christina. You back from vacation? You home? You?
I'm insane at the moment, but that's okay. And I just had a complete brain fart. Anyway, so
4.1 working hard on this. Don't listen to her.
The map is
4.1 on tourism and cultural assets. I finally got the okay from Kate Bush today on what I'm allowed to put on this list. So I have working with Nancy Sterner. We are going to edit the map. I have a condensed list. I have a larger list that Liam had suggested I send in. So I'm going to be sending that in. And I think if I get the credits for everything on this 4.1, it's 15 points.
So you believe you gathered what you need, you know what the parameters are, and it's a matter of just, you have everything you need to submit. You just have to.
Exactly. It's just a matter of now, it's just a matter of getting this map up and on the website, which shouldn't take that long now that I have permission to put certain things in. 4.2, we should have 10 points. It's just, I'm doing it on the senior center. It's just a redo of an old the action we did last time. So it's just a matter of inputting all of the information, making it look nice and uploading it, which I have all right here, which will be done as soon as I'm not driving to New York City twice a day, which will be after Friday. 5.5, oh my God, I just had a thought. Why are we not including Great Island in this? I'm insane. So I'm going to now do that. I'm going to add that in. But we're not taking possession until September, but I think the historic properties part of it can still go in. I wouldn't see why not. Thoughts, Liam?
So can you tell me a little bit more about that additional piece that you would like to include?
Yeah, it's the Ziegler estate. That's not, we just bought the town $1 billion, $9 million, and it includes a historic horse barn, a house built in 1905, a boathouse. I was just looking through. So I'm just going to add all those into, it's got a greenhouse, an equestrian center, the main house, a carriage house. So I think I'm just going to add that in for more points. I'm not going to.
Christine, I think you need to double. I'm not sure when we're actually closing on that property, and I think in order to include it, we have to have closed on the property. Would that be right, Liam?
So it doesn't matter because for the historic, if you're multiplying priority historic assets within the community, it's a historic asset. It doesn't matter who owns it.
Okay,
that makes
great.
Sense.
Okay,
because it's like the church. I've got the Mather homestead. I mean, we don't own that. I mean, there's the Bates Schofield house. I mean, it's all historic resources, and I think the equestrian center would count in there too. So I'm going to add I'm going to shoot a quick email to somebody at town hall and see if I can add that in. But other than that, I've got the list, and I'm just waiting on the very slow people at the Historical Society to get back to me. I'm bugging them now.
Yeah,
I
Christine, just
want
as long as you outline whether it's privately or municipally owned is just important.
Yeah,
That
I've
way
got
it's
everything
easy
located.
to
I've got
do.
everything done. I'll shoot, if you want, Liam, I'll shoot you what I've done so far. And
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
so you can
The
do
other thing is,
even what?
I was just gonna say, and in terms of the Ziegler property, you could probably include a link either to the town news or the Darien Times or someplace that shows um, the move of the purchase of that property and move it from the approval to purchase the private property to make it a town property. So,
So the
you know,
RTM
Yeah, that
minutes
would
would,
go
would
listed
be
under
documentation.
because you have to, for each historic resource, list the actions that are required to sustain the long-term viability. So that would be included in that.
okay, yeah,
And
cool.
then
And if you
and
can't,
then I'm breaking down you get. So anyway, I think we're going to get either 35 or 45 points for 5.5.
Wow.
we've got you down at 10.
Oh no, it'll be more than 10.
Okay. Liam, can you just change that to say 30 at this point for point level
Sure.
requested, or is 30 a fair number at this point, Christine?
Oh yeah, it should be
Okay.
be 35 at the minimum.
Okay, well,
Great.
Cross. I will be doing nothing but this for the next week, but it's gonna get done.
Thank you so much.
okay.
People are gonna. Does anybody know Sylvia Reese's email? Because I'm just trying to find it, and they're not answering my questions at the Historical Society.
I don't know anyone there. So interesting as you're working through this, and going forward, although she's her plate is full, but Marley Hayes, the woman I met too, and we'll get to her in a minute,
Yeah. She's so nice. Yeah.
is
Amy Allen at
think-
the Historical Society. Oh, sorry.
Yes, it's Amy. I've been talking to Amy. She's not answering my email.
Maybe vacation, maybe
If I email somebody, I want to do it like 5 minutes ago. So I'm terrible at this, but I'm like, do it now.
I know Amy a little bit. If you want me to.
Oh, I know Amy a lot too. So I will.
Okay.
I'll
All right. You
be
got
getting
it.
another email from you this afternoon.
Okay.
I'm going to try to give it 48 hours. Try.
Got it.
it wouldn't hurt to have Tony just like,
Yeah.
just like say, we're kind of waiting, Amy, come on.
or just thanks for your help, Amy.
Right. Okay.
That annoying
Appreciate
thing.
it. Tell me all about the
All
Bates
right.
Schofield house. Yeah, no.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, Tony.
you.
That would be great.
Kathy, what were you going to say about Marley Hayes?
She in her role in communications is defining her role a lot, and so as time goes on, I think she will be a valuable asset when it comes to things that go on the website and things that go in the newsletter and things that go on the town's Instagram and things that go on the Facebook. So a lot of what you're doing, I think she'd be really interested in knowing about.
Okay,
Based on the conversation I just had from her, which is why I was late
I'll
getting
touch
home.
base with her.
Alrighty, so shall we go on to 8? Yes, Liam, you're already there. We're gonna make this a fast meeting. I think, Carolyn, that 8.1 is you listing, you loading it in, right?
8.1, yes. What I want to do, Lily had asked me to include documentation for each of the items, the events listed, and I do have those. It's because there's so many of them, they're hard to upload individually, so I was going to do a narrative on a Word document and just include them there. And then attach the word. Does that sound like the better way to do it, Liam, than to attach them individually?
Sure. Yeah. Either works,
So
but yeah, sounds great.
that's another one. I will definitely get that done by the weekend. So because it's done. I mean, it's just a question of sitting down and putting it together.
Perfect.
Liam, is there a way to do it, or Carolyn, just links? Can you hyperlink in your
Pardon?
document? Can you use links to do it? Like, are there links to? without having to now.
Some of the documentation, Kathy, is links, but some of it is screenshots of things.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
just
okay.
is easy to do it as a Word document at this point, I think. Yeah.
Just you're doing a lot. I'm wondering if there's any way to shorten your work.
It's done basically. It's just, at this point, it's just like word processing.
Okay, so 8.2, which is provide effective communication. So this was one that we had thought, and then we thought we'd take it off, and then I thought I'd back down it, having Carolyn's real insight into what Marley Hayes is doing, and she was very responsive. Marley is our I'm not sure what her title is, but she was a newly appointed communications manager for the town of Darien. She started this year. It was defined in 2021, but she began her job in 2022. And she took the questions that are asked in 8.2 and answered them all. In terms of inventorying the municipal communications channels, figuring out, she's in a process of engaging community stakeholders. It's not all done. I don't think that would be too much of a no in terms of what she's doing and who she's speaking to. And so she gave me today pretty much a summary or a narrative of the 8.2A. And then you have to do B, which is develop a strategy. So she's inventoried and she has a strategy. It's really an ongoing strategy because every time she does something, she finds out something she didn't know before.
Right.
And in its simplest terms, we have many forms of communication and many independent commissions and boards that provide their own communications. And so there's sort of the town that she's working on and trying to get to know these other sources of information. She's also, for the first time, really measuring how many followers there are for Facebook, Instagram, how many people have signed up for the website. So she's going through a really exhaustive, sort of web analysis of who we're reaching, and the numbers are still relatively small.
Did
For
she
instance,
say how many people had signed up for the biweekly newsletter? Because
Yeah,
that
she
is
did.
really well done.
She said there were 3,471 subscribers with a 20% open rate. So, you're getting 700 people looking at it, which is considered good. But when you think of the whole size of the town, there are 1,200 subscribers on Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she has some measurable goals to improve those. If you're talking about your communication strategy, anything she can do that would increase those, plus kind of reining in, not editing, but reining in and being able to share the information that other groups are generating is important to her. Like, she's very appreciative, Carolyn, of coordination you've had with her to share information on food scraps or hazardous waste disposal or those things. So you're kind of a model for how many commissions and committees exist that meet on a regular basis. So I think I can write this up.
Great.
Sort of have the inventory, and she knows what she has to do. She has a job description, but she's less, this is the first time Jamie is the one who identified a need for this position.
Yeah, because I think Kate was doing the social media before, but we didn't have the newsletter. And I know that, Marley puts stuff out like multiple times a day, it seems. I mean, on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. So a lot of information is being communicated. So that's great.
It is, and she knows what's not being communicated. Cliff, she was very interested in seeing some of the work you've written up about the seniors, because with most of what we do being all online, she knows there's people that aren't getting it, but she's really not sure how to get to them. And so it was that was a side conversation, but sort of a how to reach the people that aren't online is something that she knows is a small population, but one that she's not reaching currently. And her attempts to reach them by putting things in like the library or the senior center don't seem to be resulting in, her information being, removed and taken away from the site. So, well, interesting conversation. Really. Cliff talked to some folks about these things. So there's a lot of overlap. Very fascinating conversation.
Right.
So I will pull this up. I know Liam had to go get his computer charger, but I will send it to them before I upload it. I'm going to kind of follow. There's a 5 questions you have to answer and a worksheet. So
So
anybody,
you think we can get the minimum points in that category?
well, you have to get all the points. There is no minimum. It's like you have to do A and B.
Oh, okay. You have to do all of the above, below. Okay.
Right. So I'm still listing it as planned for 15 points, and we'll just see if we meet the criteria that Sustainable CT is asking for, given the the evolution of the job and the beginning of having a communications strategy. I mean, she has an inventory. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are at least a dozen, online sources. There are probably a half a dozen or more, mailings that go out, whether it's tax bills, dump stickers, all kinds of different voter registration, communication, all kinds of things. So communication out is significant, and none of it's really coordinated between anyone. And she's inventorying it, and then she's figuring out how she can use it for the town. And does that story sound like a story that is what Sustainable CT is looking for, Liam?
Kathy,
I mean, I haven't written it up yet,
yeah, and then we'd be happy to review it when it's uploaded and can check that over again as well.
I mean, there is an inventory. She's got strategies, but in terms of assessing them, they're early on, but certainly even just on the web traffic and the open rates is something that she'll be able to measure over time.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds
Maybe
good.
you can just even like qualify that, Kathy, like in the, the additional information section, just that the position is new and it's kind of being, if it's not, in other words, if it's not meeting all the criteria, there might be a way to explain that, it's new and it's sort of a work in progress.
She did answer all 5 questions.
Oh, good.
And some of the answer is, I don't know, I haven't gotten there yet, but in general, I mean, Tony,
that's fair for a newly created position.
She's trying to, work with Parks and Rec and the Mental Health Task Force and the Public Works and the Selectman's Office in Kate Bush and all the commissions. And she's like, a lot of times, and maybe not everybody has to know what everybody else is doing, but there seems to be a lot of, independent siloed activity that in some cases it would benefit if the communication were spread to a larger group of people. And I think that's what her longer term mission really is. Right now, she's just identifying it as the survey as the worksheet asked for. So does anybody have any questions on that, or you trust me to just write it up and send it around?
I trust you implicitly, Kathy.
I'm, like I said, my head's about to explode, so I'm not, after having talked to her for an hour and a half, so I have to let it sit in, sync before I write it, I'm afraid. Okay, that's 8.2. 8.5 you were working on, but I think it's done.
Yeah.
But it said completed and then planned. It went back and
I don't know what to say about this. I think I'm kind of starting over from square one. I think one of the things that's difficult here, Liam, is that the action item does not give any guidance in terms of like, how much time or what types of things are required for collaboration. For example, is giving a tour to representatives from a municipality, is that considered mentoring? I mean, does that suffice as a mentoring experience if there's that in addition to emails and follow-up calls and things like that? I mean, I'm trying to piece these things together because, as I said in the additional comment section, like, these collaborations, occurred sort of organically. Like, I didn't do them to get points on this application. I mean, we had a really great program, and it was the first one in Lower Fairfield County, and a lot of people wanted to know about it. And we got a lot of questions. A lot of people wanted to see it. So, I mean, does that constitute mentoring if we gave tours to people, if we forwarded resources to people? I can't tell you how many, I gave my cell phone out to everybody. I've spent so much time on the phone talking to different folks about the program. What I was planning to do was it does specifically say, if you engaged in like a presentation and interactive discussion about the action item with a committee or governing body of another town. I attended a task force meeting for Trumbull. And I also attended one for Easton, and I actually did a PowerPoint presentation, created a PowerPoint presentation for them. So, I mean, would those, Liam, be more easy to just put in there as opposed to trying to summarize everything else that I've done? And because those are like more targeted, because there was a request, I met the request, there was a presentation, it was an official municipal group. It didn't always result in implementation of a program, but in one case, they did implement a program in the middle school. So there was a vestige of implementation, if you will. I want to be sure that I feel that we deserve the credit here, and I want to make sure that I present it in the best possible way.
Totally. Yeah, those, from my perspective, they sound like all of this sounds like mentoring, but as you can see yesterday with my emails back and forth, it's kind of hard how they interpret it. So what I'm going to do is I wouldn't recommend working on it anymore today. I'm going to talk to Mary tomorrow, and I have written down all of those questions, and then we're going to talk through that email that you sent me as well. And then I'll answer all those questions and figure out, so like, does the tour apply for mentoring, and how a lot of it happened organically. So like, what's the best way to express that in the application?
I mean, I do have emails. I don't have evidence of all the phone calls because, as I said, I gave my cell phone out to people. People would call, text me, can you talk? And I would call them back. And then with regard to the second one, I really, I'm shifting the Easton one because I think I misunderstood what was being asked in the second one. So I'm shifting the Easton case to the first one because that's more of a mentoring situation, I believe. The second one is more of something that towns came together to do jointly. What I don't understand is, and I had asked the question and I got the feedback from Sustainable CT, is why the work that I did with the Connecticut Product Stewardship group doesn't count. Because that was a number of meetings. It was drafts of proposed legislation that I have evidence that I commented on to Jen Heaton-Jones. I went to all of the meetings. I have contemporaneous notes from all the meetings. I went through all my notebooks this morning. I have evidence of contemporaneous notes from each of those meetings. I submitted written testimony on the bill for the 2021 legislative session. I did not. So the bill didn't pass in 2021. It did pass in 2022. So it says that the regional participation must directly result in implementation of a sustainable CT action. The sustainable CT action is that now something can be recycled that wasn't able to be recycled before, which is these small propane canisters. Plus, there's other stuff with it too. But it did pass in 2022, so I don't really understand why that doesn't count.
Sure. I agree.
That was nothing but collaboration.
Right. So I have written down your questions here, and I'll get Mary's explicit wording based off of that and how that wouldn't make sense there, because now that the bill's passed in 2022, that is an example of legislation coming to the forefront here.
And I contacted my state legislators in support of the legislation, both in 21 and in 22. I just, I got a no on that when I asked about it a month ago or 3 weeks ago. And I just, like I said, I've been going through it over again, and I just don't understand. I think it's a perfect example of collaboration. It was people representing various municipalities throughout the state coming together to try to get a bill passed to solve a problem, a waste reduction problem. So there's
Sure.
that. And then, like we'll use, household hazardous waste for another one. So we should get that one. And then the presentation to, I did 2 presentations to the CCSMM groups. One was a learning series. The other one was a increased recycling working group. And, again, those don't result directly in implementation of an action, but it's providing information to people in other communities so that they can hopefully learn from it so that they can. So I'm putting them in because, like I said, Glastonbury got credit for it. And it's basically the same thing that we did. So I'm putting it in.
I'm on mute.
You're,
Okay, sounds
yeah,
good.
you're
Yes.
on. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And similarly, like you said with Glastonbury, if they got credit for it, then if you walk it through in a similar system, then I'm sure that you should receive credit for it as well. And I'll talk through this with Mary tomorrow, like I said. And I've got a list of notes, so I'm going to bring it up with her.
Okay.
Yeah, I also think, you've got different readers that are looking at the stuff from prior years, prior certifications. I don't know about this particular case with Glastonbury.
True.
And so I think that it doesn't mean it.
Maybe I should even mention Glastonbury because I am writing a narrative because those word perfect charts that you have to fill out are not conducive to really giving a good picture of what you've done. So I'm writing a narrative, and I might even just mention Glastonbury in here.
Carolyn, I would totally, I tend to write more than I tend to write narratives, and I will spend a lot of time doing that. So I support the idea of you writing a narrative. I think it's very simple to say this action as similar to Glastonbury certification 2021 does X, Y, and Z. And to the degree, I'm not speaking for Leah, but sustainable CT needs documentation, but I don't think they need, every note or phone call. They need to see a trend of how you worked on something between January and March, or with meetings, phone calls, etc. Because there's a lot of work to do.
What's difficult is what I just, proposed to Liam, which is that they don't really give like sort of like a time frame, could it have been, like for Trumbull, for example, it's like, over the period of, 2 weeks, I made an introduction was made, I got a request, I created a presentation, I met with the group, I followed up with emails. I actually followed up with emails a year later even. So, is that considered mentoring?
I would think it would be, but yeah, it's kind of ambiguous there. I agree.
All right. I think your questions are there. Liam's got some work to do. I think we know that since we've lost a couple of folks.
Yeah. I think we're going to be losing Liam too. Liam, didn't you say you had to leave?
Yeah, I've got for a doctor's appointment, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
So you let us know when you have to go.
Basically, all that's left is the 9s, 3 and 4, which we know those are pretty clear, and then 10, which we talked about before. So I see the chart that I had sent out last week and then I updated here does list basically 11 actions in 7 categories that are still being worked on. We have 2 weeks, and the number of points I had at 70, but changing what 570, but changing what Christine said, that is truly looking at submission of 595 points. So that's where we're at. We're at a significant number of points, which gives us a tremendous amount of wiggle room for silver. Should give a little breathing room if something falls off, and is contingent on either the food scrap survey or the mental health task force being considered an optimized for equity action. That's really where we're at.
With regard to the food scrap survey, do you think it would strengthen do you think it would strengthen our case if we were to say, because one of the things that Cliff had mentioned was that we didn't get quite the result that we were hoping for. Would it help us to say that we might take that information and kind of recalibrate and think where else we might possibly consider doing surveys, like in other congregate housing situations, possibly?
Sure, that could help. And Sustainable CT definitely realizes that this is like a fluid process as well. So if you recognize that you're still conducting this equity process and kind of taking your results and then making additional decisions off of that, I think that could definitely help as well, like you were saying.
And then
go ahead. Just the letter that we did get back when Cliff sent it in was basically saying, I'd go for it. You've gone through the process, the learning process of surveying, getting feedback, assessing that feedback, and then maybe readdressing whether it's those same people with education or going somewhere else to try another population seemed to be what the optimized for equity was supposed to be. So, I mean, Cliff has gone, but he says he's waiting for feedback, but I thought we got the feedback and that he should just go ahead and upload it, with his, edit it and upload it. So I guess if he's still waiting to hear back from Liam tomorrow, he can just wait and do it. But I actually think that one is the model of what they're asking for, and that we get too caught up on success.
And I think the other thing too is maybe even mentioning that the time frame in which we did the survey was not optimal because it was done in July, and some people may have been away. So
that's not it. I don't think, Carolyn, that's what the Sustainable CT is looking for. They're looking for learning the process of asking for feedback and using that feedback, not to grade the level of response or the quality.
So it's the process, not the result.
Completely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I totally defer to you on this, Kathy, because I know you are like completely, swimming.
My head is exploding.
Yeah. If you think if it meets the bar, then I totally support that.
Yes.
On that note, I think I have
to go. To what Liam
said. Liam has to leave, so
thank you, Liam.
Thank you so much, Liam.
Totally, sounds great. And I'll get back to you tomorrow, and after our meeting, we meet with Mary at 1, so I'll send you an email probably around 2 or so with some information that we get from Mary.
Thank you. I will be waiting to hear from you. I won't do any more work on 8.5 until I hear from you.
Cool, sounds great.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Liam.
Talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
So, okay, so I think Tony is still here. Cliff left. Cliff had to leave. So I think
make a motion to adjourn.
I think that's good, and I will second it. So I'm going to turn off the recording now.